Hey, Kiwi.
Hey, how are you, mate?
Oh, I don't have camera on.
There
Let
you are.
me put on the right one. You got the right one there.
Oh, looking all very high tech there. All your
Yeah,
LED.
I know, right? I tried to copy Chris Lindahl's little studio, but on a micro level.
Nice. I know everyone's getting studios now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I went to Chris's house in Minneapolis, and he took this probably 1,000 square foot room over his garage in his house.
Uh,
And he's got like this pretty elaborate studio set up with like 14 cameras and different stations. And, yeah,
yeah.
I think he spent about 500,000 on it. So it's
I was,
quite something.
I was gonna say
Eh,
that guy goes big with everything, doesn't he? He just doesn't piss around.
Oh, you're just sitting there in his house, and then next thing you know, he disappears, and he comes back like 15 minutes later. He's like, "Yeah, I just recorded like 4 videos." So he actually has. It's actually a really cool setup because he will record it and then his editors will just log in and download all the files and edit and then repurpose the videos, right? So
Super smart.
whether
Yeah.
shooting videos for his team or
Yeah.
content, whatever it is, right? So
Yeah. I know Sunit's getting pretty good with it too. Have you seen a lot of his
oh
stuff?
yeah, Sunita and his AI.
Yeah, he's a character. Um, Cool, man. No, thanks for giving me a little bit of time. So I'm just writing an article on SEO for real estate. So I figured I want to hear from some people who understand this pretty well and have been in it for a long time. And you were one of the ones that came to the top of my mind. Um, so I'll just fire some questions away. Um, what sites is it? justinharvery.com, or do you have other like SEO sites you put a lot of SEO efforts into, and sort of what do the numbers look like these days?
Oh, you know what? I have many sites that I apply SEO to. I mean, I think the only site that I don't apply SEO to is my Ylopo site because it's
Uh-huh.
just PPC driven, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, since I got into the business in 2005, my obsession has been on online rankings and doing search engine optimization. And I've always invested into the domains that I have owned and acquired and still, I don't think I'm going to acquire anymore. I think I have enough domains. But, some of the domains, justinharvard.com, which has been a domain that I've been, had a custom website on since 2007. I have calgaryhomes.ca, which is probably my busiest website when it comes to organic traffic and rankings, where we have thousands of keywords in the top two here in the marketplace. That website in itself drives so much organic traffic. You know, I don't have forced registration on, so it's purely just organic. And these websites, if you do the right search engine optimization, obviously it's no short path to the top in Google rankings. But if you stay consistent with it, it can really be, become your Zillow machine for your organization. And that's what I do. I look at these assets as well, these websites as an asset for my organization. 4 years ago, I acquired calgary.com, which obviously I don't think I can get a better domain for my marketplace. And, we are working on the SEO on that website because the yellow pages that owned it weren't doing anything with it. It was just a white blank web page for probably a good 10, 15 years before I got my hands on it. And I went on that website. I'm like, what a waste of an asset. Right. So, the traffic itself, I mean, if you were to look at the traffic that I had on my websites here for the Calgary market, if you were to replicate that organic traffic with Google AdWords, someone would have to spend north of $8 million annually.
Wow.
Right. So, there's a lot of power in that. The thing with obviously when you're running PPC, you can turn on and off your lead funnel. And maybe for some that is a benefit. If you want to go away on vacation, if you want to slow down over the holidays, maybe you don't have the capacity to handle all the leads that you have. You can kind of throttle that with your spend on Google AdWords. But if you have high organic rankings, it's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes. And, obviously, last January, February, and last spring is when the Calgary market was on fire. And we were begging our agents of 60 plus to, hey, can you take more leads, please? We have, 12 showing requests sitting here in the queue. They've been sitting there for an hour. We need help. So that's another problem to have, right? But at the same time, that's what happens when you have high organic rankings, when you rank number one for, Calgary homes for sale, Calgary condos for sale. Those are obviously the primary keywords that drive a lot of traffic. And obviously you have all the long tail keywords for all the communities and so forth as well that benefit.
Yeah. How important would you say the actual domain name is, like getting a domain name with the keyword in it, like Calgary and homes for sale, versus like a Justin Havre, more of a brand name?
Well, the value of having the keyword in a domain name, the only people that know the true value of that would be the people at Google, which I'm sure every single person that does SEO or looks at investing into getting some high rankings would love to know the formula that Google has. It's constantly a guessing game, but I do believe that, I look at it this way here, number one rule in real estate is location, location, location. And I believe there's some aspect to that is also important when you're looking at websites as well. A domain name is location, location. It can become a marketing tool, like for ourselves, Calgary.com. You can build a brand around a domain name, right? And if it's easy to remember or a catchy phrase, that becomes part of the branding as well. And clearly, I do believe that there is some impact on having specifically the city name or the marketplace in the domain name for the sake of organic rankings.
Yep, I agree. So obviously SEO takes time. You've got to be patient. If you're acquiring a new domain name, you're sort of starting a project from scratch. How do you go about that? Are you outsourcing it? Are you doing in-house? And what are the sort of things you're sort of focusing on to get up and running, to get off the ground and just start building upon?
Well, first and foremost, if you're acquiring a domain, is it a domain that has no history on it? I think it would be important to kind of do some due diligence to ensure that, you know the history of the domain, because again, some domains that you may acquire, if it has been used before, does it have, any domain authority? What kind of links are linking to that domain? Was it ever a domain that was penalized by Google? Because those things can happen, and that may have happened to that domain, which may be why they're looking at selling it now. Personally, I've hired the wrong people to do my SEO, where I've lost a lot of money that I invested in a domain when Google did an algorithm update. And there's no worse feeling than waking up one morning and going like, where did my traffic go? Where did the leads go, right? So for myself, at the very beginning, I was doing some of the work myself. But where my business is at today, I work with a professional agency. I worked with them for many, many years. And how it kind of started out was, you obviously get to know people throughout the industry, throughout different markets. You get to find out who they are using and who is getting results. And at one point, I had two different companies. I gave them each a domain, and I said, here, show me what you can do. And, one was obviously able to get better results than the other. And then I went all in with that company. Myself and many of my colleagues throughout North America use the same company. And, I think it's important that you work with someone that has a good reputation, a proven track record, and somebody that you can trust, because unfortunately, there are many people that are selling SEO services and claiming to be the expert. I have hired those people myself. It's like driving down the freeway with your window open and just throwing wads of cash out the window because, you know, you seem to get the same result, but you don't find out about that until several years down the road. Because, you know, when you're working with someone or doing your SEO, it can take 2, 3, 4 years before you really see the result of the work that you're doing today. And that's, it takes time. And the reason why many people fail, in my opinion, is because one, they hire the wrong company, and two, they quit too soon because they don't see an ROI. And you can't really look at it as, hey, you know what, I'm going to put $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever the amount is that you are investing into your domain. You cannot expect to see any ROI on that for a year or two down the road. And so what I do is, you know, if I acquire a fresh new domain, I make sure that I select the platform in which I want to build it on. You know, myself, I use Real Estate Webmasters as one of the platforms. The other platform that I use is Sierra Interactive. Those two platforms, from my experience, seem to be the websites that have the best infrastructure for being optimized for SEO and being more friendly to the search engines. I seem to kind of like them a little bit better than others. But again, there are many other options out there as well, but those are the ones that I have worked with myself. And then it's ensuring that, you know, you get unique content, that you get the right site infrastructure built out and the right linking and how it's going to be laid out. And then it's also starting to build that domain authority by different link building campaigns and so forth.
As far as content goes, is that something you're also outsourcing, or you're doing a lot of that yourself with their sort of following their sort of guidance?
You know what? Because I have such a long-standing relationship with the company that I use, you know, they're handling it all now. Handle all of it. You know, there are times if we have a specific blog topic that we want to push out or anything like that, or we have ideas of like, hey, we want to update this, add this, we will then collaborate with them and then they will push out the content. I have basically just said, here you go. I'm not going to micromanage you. I trust you 100%. But if there's anything that we want to add or update, or, you know, let's say I'm shifting a business model a bit or making a pivot here and there where we need to update the content, I will just solely direct that. Now, I will add another thing that I think is incredibly important if you're hiring someone to, or you're outsourcing your SEO, and that is to ensure that you have market exclusivity. I believe that when you are making such a significant investment into an asset, you are partnering with this company, and it is where we need to put our business hat on. Because if they are going to be working for you, promoting your website, I believe that they should only be working on one website or for one company in each market. It doesn't make sense that they're working with 10, 20 other competitors of yours in the exact same market. That doesn't do you any good. It benefits the vendor, I guess, because they have multiple clients. However, as a business operator, it's probably not in the best interest of your business to have a vendor that works with your competitors as well. And I always use the analogy, right? Coca-Cola wouldn't be using Pepsi's marketing company. So why should we? We got to think a little bit bigger than just, you know, again, our markets. But I think that's an important piece, unless you're doing it yourself. I think it's incredibly important to ask for references, right? A reputable vendor should give you a list of references. With the permission of their vendors, they should be able to share Google Analytics of the time that they have worked with them. So you can see, okay, we started working with this person at this time. Here you can see the gradual growth. Here are the keywords that they started to rank. Here's where they were when we started. Here's where they are now. And you know what? Sometimes it's going to fluctuate a bit depending on, obviously, Google and when they do their algorithm updates, but you know, it's also about consistency. And if you rank really high in the organic search, you're going to see market trends, I believe, before they actually become trends in the marketplace, because you're going to start to see a spike in traffic. And that will obviously translate into more transactions in the marketplace as well over time, right? So, because if people are entering the curiosity stage, usually is online where they start. So you can really have a good insight on that trend line based on your website traffic, especially if you have a lot of #1 rankings.
Yeah, you've given some really good information on what to look for in an SEO company. Can you talk a little bit about what people can expect to have to pay to do it properly? Because, you know, a lot of people just cheap out, think it's, oh, I just said spend $500 and I'm good, I got SEO. But obviously, you know, you're doing it as a big investment, but obviously you're getting big rewards. What do the numbers kind of look like when you're doing this seriously at a very, very high level? And, you know, what are the alternatives to that?
You know, it is, I mean, I have 10 plus websites, right? So but if you're going to have one website and you want to, and again, everybody has a different budget and depending on where you are. I remember my very first website. I just kind of give you a little bit of context here. My very first website that I started doing, it was a custom website by Real Estate Webmasters. And, you know, I went all in on SEO. And at that time, I was paying $4,000 a month for SEO. And this was back in 2007 for one website. Put things into context. My mortgage payment at the time was $1,000 a month. So I may have been pretty aggressive on that at the time, but I'm even more aggressive today. And this is now, you know, 15 years later. And, you know, I would say if you're going to have, and again, it depends on so many things. It depends on, again, how competitive is your market? How big is your market? How big is your website? What are your competitors doing? Right? And I would say a healthy budget should be minimum $5,000 a month. And it can go up from there. You could be spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month per website, depending on what you do. I mean, I've been spending, you know, $16,000 a month on one website just for link building. Right. And then you have content on top of that. So again, there are, depending on what the focus is on your domains and how fast you want them to take off. Right. But at the same time, it does take time. You got to have patience and you got to be willing to ride that out, because I think that's a critical component, is one, having the right company, two, making sure that you stick its course, because you may quit right before you get to the gold mine, so to speak. And you know, I'm in this Facebook group, and I just saw one of my friends who started doing SEO here a few years ago, and you know, he was sharing some crazy numbers of, you know, how it has really taken off here in the last week. And I'm like, yeah, she's popping, you know, congrats. So it's exciting. I mean, for some of us, especially if we are in, you know, running teams and so forth, and we have people that rely on opportunities, you know, it's exciting for us when we're starting to, you know, see the results, see their leads coming in, and obviously we can support an entire ecosystem of agents around us with these opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. What are some other important what's some other important technology or tools you should have in place if you're doing SEO? Like, for example, how important is remarketing to have if you're driving like a ton of traffic to a website, things like that?
Oh, you know what? There's one thing about generating leads, right? it's also then now what do you do with them? You got to have a game plan of how you are going to handle all the opportunities that you're going to generate. You touched on retargeting is incredibly important. Making sure that you have, saved searches or dynamic saved searches. Making sure that you have a follow-up and nurture plan for all of them. Making sure that you have them going into a CRM and that you're actually using the CRM. Right? Making sure that every lead gets contacted, have that action plan. When it comes to obviously retargeting, you can retarget through social media, through the Google ad network. And again, the way you can segment your database based on different, lead sources, price ranges, property types, communities. You can really go deep into how you segment the leads in your database for a retargeting purpose. And then obviously AI, right? Artificial intelligence, chatbots, Raya 2.0 that was just launched by Ylopo, with, Raya and ChatGPT integrated, that in itself, is, the AI ISA on steroids, essentially, and making sure that obviously you benefit from all the opportunities that you have invested into so much to generate into your ecosystem. But then you got to make sure that you obviously take advantage of all those opportunities and that you don't have them slip through the cracks. And you're not going to get them all, but you'll have plenty to choose from, as long as you have the right follow-up process. And using a CRM, I made many mistakes in my journey to get to where I am today. And, at one point in time, I had, 5 websites. And here's some mistake that you don't want to make. I had 5 different websites for my agents. They all had to log into the back end of the CRM of each website because I didn't have them all into one ecosystem or one CRM. Just doing that change was a big game changer for us.
Last question. You've invested so much money, you've got so much traffic. Are you nervous at all about generative AI and the way things may be changing with ChatGPT and Google Baird? And have you been able to run some queries and sort of see how you rank and how it looks?
I guess it's the unknown that none of us really know the deep impact it's going to have. Are we in a moment where we're seeing changing consumer behavior and changing user behavior and how we use AI incorporated? I know, like, obviously ChatGPT is incorporated into Bing. Is that going to change the consumer behavior and how they do search? Google is going to be doing the same thing as well. But then you got to take a step back as well as, how are these search engines generating revenue? They're generating revenue based on AdWords and advertising money that consumers are spending to get traffic. So I believe that, is some of it going to change? And perhaps it's just going to be enhancing the way that we do searches and get results. And I believe that we're also going to start to see now more AI integrated into the websites itself on how we search for properties, right? Help do analysis of different properties based, if it's an investment property, hey, can you do a report on, where's the best value in which community, or find me the best properties around these schools with 4 bedrooms up. You can even have them where it's going to be finding you properties with similar interior features because the AI is going to be scanning all the images that are coming in through the IDX feed or features of the property. So I think it's going to be enhancing the way that we search, but I don't think it's going to have much of an impact on the traffic. We just have to now adapt and pivot on how do we now keep the people or the users onto our websites to create that user experience by utilizing the tools. And you know what? Everything is constantly changing. That's the one thing that's always happening. So we, for longevity, we got to have the ability to pivot and adapt. And that's no different than anywhere else in life.
Yeah, definitely. Well said, mate. All right, awesome. I've got a big webinar coming up, so I won't keep you any longer. That was gold. So I didn't realize you had so many. Shit, you're heavy into this, but reaping the rewards. So it's well, done it well.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, you know what, for me, I've had websites in Los Angeles. I have had websites in other markets. And that was one of the things that I did was, I looked at these domain names as assets. I would build them up. Some of them I've built up and sold. And some of them, I still have websites in other markets where teams basically run my platform and I generate opportunities, and I just kind of follow the same processes in which we use here in Calgary, where we've sold nearly 2,000 homes in a year. And, kind of my revenue properties, because every referral check is a rent check.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of how I look at it in my mind. And, I look at these as assets too, that are also sellable. So if you do, there's one thing to sell a domain name. There's another thing to sell a domain name with traffic.
Yeah. Can you mention at all some numbers around some domain names you've sold? Like, give people an idea of how huge this kind of can be.
I
don't care if you don't, but it's
I haven't broken the 7-figure number, but I've sold several in the 6-figure numbers. Right. And some of them are, smaller and bigger markets. Some of them were, in the very, very early stages as well. But I've also spent a lot of money to acquire domain names as well. Right. So my one focus has been, obviously, it took me 4 years to acquire Calgary.com. And, that was a significant investment. I was kind of sick to my stomach when I wired the funds for that. Could have gone and, bought a house essentially. But I bought something that you can never touch. But it is a digital asset, and I've acquired additional geo domains as well in and around Calgary. And, I look at that as, an investment as well, because, it's a sellable asset. And
yeah,
but at the same time, I can utilize it and leverage it for real estate.
oh, for sure. Yeah, monetize the crap out of it more than most.
Yeah, and I think,
yeah,
and then there's so many different uses for these domains. You look at Toronto.com, Boston.com, those are big newspapers. Clearly, newspapers seem to be a thing of the past, but that is, a portal for information for those markets. There's another gentleman down in Denver. I know he was a realtor or a developer. He owns Denver.com, and I know that some of these domains are fetching, 7 figures.
Yeah. Do you know Robert Bentley? You know Robert Bentley?
Robert Bentley.
He's is it Newbury, Massachusetts? But anyway, he owns the domain name for his city, and he put up a bunch of webcams around the city and was getting a ton of organic traffic. But then he had a lot of the local businesses on there who would help pay for all to be a sponsor on the site so that they could show their banners and stuff. But it was generating a lot of money for him just by having cams and local sponsors, producing local content. And plus he monetizes it with all of his SEO and his leads for his team. Done really, really well with just the one asset. So yes.
Yeah, if you get a chance, send me that domain. I'd love to check out that site.
Yeah. I'll look it up and send it over to you.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, Matt. Really appreciate your time. Hope you're doing good.
Thank you. Anytime.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.